have been going around Hollywood far too frequently, showing how people with power and wealth misuse their advantages, leaving many just take a peek at Epstein's island in the brutal world of music producer and rapper Diddy, who left a trail of victims in their wake. Ruler of an absolute monarchy, his authority goes far beyond killings in the entertainment industry. Although the storyline of a criminal drama may seem familiar, drug trafficking and sexual abuse are the terrible realities of the star's life. He is praised for being a cultural icon, a fashion tyrant, and a reformer of rap. But he is also a ruthless creature responsible for the murders of innocent people. Shay Combs is the Detective Brooks. The man whose name transformed Hollywood forever is who you are viewing. JN and get ready, because now you will understand the whole truth about your favorite celebrity Sean Single when the youngster was just 3 years old. His father was shot in the early 1970s, and his mother took him in. Diddy never heard information from his mother regarding the circumstances behind his father's death. The mother was afraid that her kid might follow the Diddy's father was a local drug dealer who worked for a criminal kingpin. His death is a result of his murderous journey. Directly connected to the discovery of a massive drug trade when a disobedient adolescent went to a Catholic school, and the young man enrolled at Washington's Howard University in the late 1980s. However, he soon discovered the youngster immerses himself in the madness of night rather than poring over dull textbooks, realizing that his destiny does not lay there. Parties helped him break into the music business, but many who knew young Puffy were hesitant to commend his personality. Several accounts describe his ferocious anger, disregard for other people's personal space, and even harassment. A lot of girls made the effort to stay away from Combs like the plague. The women who drew the conclusion that anyone who attempted to date him appeared terrified. A student made this observation while rolling. Stone Sean had an odd tendency to take charge of everything Diddy desired for himself, always hoping for the best. His assertive and even menacing demeanor allowed him to get entry into Uptown because he was determined to be the best at everything. The recordings, where he discovered his love for rap. This location gave him a lot of contacts and success, but less than 3 years later, Sean's supervisor Andre Harrell declared that there were 2 kings in one. Castle is unachievable, but occasionally Diddy's ambitions get the better of him. Imagined an AIDS fundraising event following a charitable match in 1991, it would appear that anything could incorrectly, but as a result of shoddy planning, a horrible stampede happened, taking the 9 lives were lost. And twice as many individuals as anticipated showed up to be close to Diddy. Strongly suggested that the artist immediately go into hiding, frightened by the scandal. Sean, along the relatives of those who perished in the incident, together with his mother, spent several months hiding from everyone in a Manhattan hotel. Stampede bombarded Combs with scores of lawsuits, which never once in this entire process took less than 10 years to resolve. The unfortunate organizer finally apologized to the relatives of the victims of the tragedy. In one of his tracks, he angrily confronted them one-on-one, saying, "I didn't mean to hurt you. I have the truth on my side, but if it helps you feel better, then so be it. I'll accept this deadly stampede as the catalyst for an incredibly protracted string of trials and legal issues that plagued Diddy. Worked for years following his well-publicized firing from Uptown Records in 1993. Aspiring Sean established Bad Boy Records, bringing Huge with him as a signatory. It appears that upon starting a new label, he brought in a potential rapper with whom he had collaborated at his prior employment. Combs maintained a clear goal to establish ultimate control over his artists and additionally to receive the lion's share of project revenues and to draft contracts so that the performers were unable to speak out against it at all. Revealing who the label stars were getting a contract with the notorious Big and making outrageous sums of money turned out to be Diddy's most fruitful professional choice. As the empire started to expand quickly following the release of Biggie's debut album, the amazing success of the record, which received triple platinum status by the conclusion of the year, today Billboard acknowledges Huge as one of the most notable rappers in music history, and without a doubt. This accomplishment was made possible by our hero, who worked tirelessly to change to turn musicians into international superstars and establish hip-hop as a popular genre. The question wasn't not if it would occur at all, but rather how quickly the years went by and Sean stayed witnesses related an incident in which he savagely attacked a female, and their account was equally unpredictable and explosive. Ex-colleagues in the label's office hardly succeeded in tearing the enraged boss away from the poor woman who was listening to her. Amid ferocious shouts and the sound of shattered glass, another worker was even the victim of a sexual attack by the manager became furious as she described how, sometime in the mid-1990s, Combs attacked her in the parking lot and made the female underlines that she gets down on her knees and has oral sex. This terrible incident is only one of 4 instances in which the pervert producer mistreats her as the label's fame expanded gradually, although staff members refrained from speaking out about their boss's abhorrent behavior in all conceivable ways. Whether driven by unquestioning allegiance or concern that these occurrences are uncommon. One small detail that is still evident, even then, is that Diddy was free to act whenever he pleased without worrying about any creating this label. This firm was Sean's greatest joy and life's work. He was completely engrossed in everything pertaining to his invention. He composed new songs and worked nonstop at advertising, as well as showed up in his stars' music videos. Therefore, it was during those tumultuous years that the renowned confrontation took place. Biggie from Shaw's Bad Boy Records label and Death superstar Tupac erupted between the coasts. Row Records and the conference engaged in a bloody war to the death. Tension that developed as a result of accusations and insults directed against one another swiftly turned into a brutal confrontation. In 1994, Shakur openly accused Combs and Christopher Wallace of a nefarious assault on him in a New York recording studio by the driven Diddy, who was utilized to fearful of losing his company's and his own reputation. He was determined to be the best at everything. Moral standards quickly go into the background when prestige and fame are at risk. If you believe the Rolling Stone published a damning piece about our hero, which made the label's employees quake in fear in front of their employer. Sean was vicious and willing to use the dirtiest and most sneaky techniques to achieve his goals. Never giving up throughout 1995, the restless Tupac produced an increasing amount of rappers attempted to denigrate, mock, and blame each other in their inflammatory diss recordings directed at every artist on Combs' label. Other of their own crimes in their own songs. Whenever possible, Diddy was even charged with firing a close friend of the death row inmate at one of the public gatherings. Hence, it makes sense that one can claim the dazzling triumph of the artists under his care meant both the personal achievement of the ambitious Sean and simultaneously their unavoidable demise in the whirlwind of crimson showdowns with an unidentified assault in a white Cadillac on September 7th, 1996, 6 days following the attempted killing. The gunman shot Shakur 4 times in the chest. Rapper Dwayne Keith Davis, who was suspected in this murder, passed away. Admitted that the murderer was following instructions rather than acting alone. This is, incidentally, also included in the documentary. Davis puffy claims in the film Deadly Rap that the hitman was paid $1 million, not only for the murder of Tupac, but also, apparently, for the removal of death row boss Diddy, and I quote, prepared to give his soul for this scumbag's head. And the likely murderer turned wealthy right after committing the well-known crime, of course. was just a coincidence brought up by a number of rumors, and conspiracy rumors still circulate about Shocker's killing. There are lots of explanations regarding how, why, and on whose sequence this could have occurred, but one undeniable fact still stands. Even Biggie continues to adamantly deny any participation in the murder, despite accusations from former Los Angeles police investigators. Had already started to think about breaching the agreement with Diddy, according to anonymous insiders quoted in Rolling Stone. Wallace told me that everyone wanted to quit Puffy, so I know for sure that he was adamant about doing so. Escape from Combs, sadly. Christopher, everyone constantly flees from him. Never succeeded in carrying out his plan, and on March 9, 1997, gunfire erupted in Los Angeles from Biggie Diddy's former bodyguard was shot 6 times by a passing automobile. The man later disclosed in an interview what actually occurred that fatal night, pleading with Sean to heed the warning, but to no avail. He dismissed them and dismissed skepticism and trusted the source that Jay-Z and Puffy mockingly claimed that they wanted Wallace dead. Unquestionable truths, even if you don't think these explanations are feasible. Christopher Wallace had serious aims. The rapper was fed up with being used as a pawn in other people's ventures and decided to leave Bad Boy Records to work on his own. Meanwhile, he kept saying that he had outgrown this petty and was tired of being taken advantage of and told lies all the time. During Biggie's consideration of quitting the music industry, Jay-Z aspired to control the whole hip-hop landscape. Consider who is currently acclaimed as the undisputed king of the rap scene. Dear admirers, the entertainment industry is cruel, and the majority of you will never understand its sneaky laws that caused Wallace's death. Proved to be a true gift for the aspirational Diddy, who used the global sorrow to extract the most Combs withheld leave from the former advertising manager, who was with Biggie on the eve of the tragedy, despite the fact that rather than giving the worker time to heal and appear to be in mourning, Sean gave the squad the order to when Christopher's posthumous record dominated the charts. Just a few months had passed since the death of his pal Diddy was asked to record a cover of a song in order to commemorate the artist's memory and reputation. The producer said, no. He passed away in July. I'm putting out a solo record, and I require the Rolling Stone cover because that's how life, despite the terrible taste of tragedy and loud noises. The relentless communications continued. Charges. But this was just the start. After Big B passed away, the tycoon, he suddenly found himself in the limelight, and it was at this time that Little Asher made a significant appearance. Encouraged by his label's co-founders to provide the 13-year-old singer with an opportunity to get professional guidance, the singer was assigned to live with a celebrity for a full year in order to teach him the ins and outs of fame, and this mentor was, according to Asher, Diddy. None other than Fluffy himself gave him a whole new perspective on the world. Inappropriate, particularly in terms of sexual interactions. For a young kid, 12 years have gone by since then, yet the performer's account holds true in an honest discussion with the singer Howard Stern nicknamed his residence the Puffy Flavor Camp, and characterized that time as when asked if he would, his whole madness, debauchery, and craziness knew no boundaries. Send his own kids to a camp like that? Asher immediately said, no. Just think of a 13-year-old. Boy spent a full year watching deviant drug-fueled parties and drinking sprees under the odd supervision of, is it any surprise? Then, that gossip about Diddy acting inappropriately toward adults started to circulate. In a single interview, his youthful war-dead lover revealed that he witnessed a small youngster swigging champagne directly from the bottle at a club's VIP area, and when Asher's debut record was released. Ed Kim Porter's children posted a message on social media disputing their parentage after realizing the infant was none other than them. Mother's authorship. They maintain that reports of Kim being physically assaulted by their father are untrue. The memoirs publishers stated that they were given a flash drive containing Porter's personal information after her passing. Records that formed the basis of the book. These contentious memoirs are currently #1 on Amazon's bestseller list, and the late famed producer's wife also spoke of his repeated threats once. In a fit of rage, did he even threaten to murder her? Naturally. The departed pals debated whether to publish such graphic material at first. Material, after all, they were risking their own lives, but as soon as it was discovered that Sean was already under federal surveillance, and the cops had gathered a ton of horrifying evidence against him from Kim's pals. Determined that the public should be aware of the facts, the book unequivocally claims that Combs sexually assaulted an 18-year-old boy who is now globally renowned, despite the fact that the victim's name is not stated. The majority of Twitter users tend to assume that it relates to Justin. By the way, some of the scandals detailed in the memoirs have long since come to light, such as the "It's difficult to picture Diddy and Jennifer Lopez shooting together in 1999. Despite the fact that they are now a couple, there was a moment when they were regarded as the most attractive pair in Hollywood. A famous rapper, whose songs are #1 on the charts, the head of his own record label, who's not even close to his level of fame, is this gorgeous Latina next to him, Bombshell, who was quickly taking over the musical Olympus and becoming a real sex icon of the period. Puff and JL were working on her album on the 6th, and although Sean formerly remained married, it seems that as soon as the singer's divorce took effect, the producer interpreted it as a signal. Things were going well until the cute pair was photographed by paparazzi in one of New York's nightclubs, so they had to move quickly. Suddenly, gunfire shook the entertainment venue. As it eventually turned out, the shots were fired at Combs' company during the disturbance, but Diddy and Jennifer were able to escape through the back door. Fortunately, the couple escaped unscathed, although 3 partygoers were struck by gunshots. The responding police officer stated that a firearm was discovered in the vehicle where the stars were traveling, had escaped the famous couple's 1999 arrest, which rocked the music business. However, beneath the dramatic headlines was a far more sinister tale. Jennifer's mother had vehemently forbade her daughter from engaging with the infamous producer, proved to be a "I warned you" prophetess. Her enraged screams in Spanish reverberated through the police. All began with an average evening in an unremarkable place, to the station where she hurried after hearing of J-Lo's detention. That evening, Hip Hop Club discovered that Puffy had incited a quarrel, with witnesses claim that the club owner was the one who ordered the situation to escalate. Knowing that things were getting hot, the pair attempted to get Jennifer to grab a pistol from the car, which resulted in the shooting, to flee, but were held for Jennifer, who was held for anything between an hour and 12. Several accounts state that behind bars was a shock and her first experience among the pompous criminals for whom such adventures were unheard of. Denied, he steadfastly maintained his innocence, saying they had no involvement whatsoever in the shooting. But the additional evidence that the prosecution had included a weird effort to bribe the driver rumors surfaced regarding Combs' acquittal on all counts, while his accomplice was sentenced to 9 years in prison. Significant compensation for accepting responsibility. One of the victims stated that Puffy shot her, but her statements were not thought. Moreover, that she charged Jennifer with lying to the jury about giving the gun to Combs that evening turned into a pivotal moment for J-Lo, as she was not only at the center of a criminal drama, but also had to decide how to divulge the truth or shield Puffy from the ramifications of this decision, which still haunt her and the couple's relationship today. Started, according to Puffy, with love at first sight and went through a trial by fire, bullets, and bars for Jennifer, who initially refused to let the producer to get too close, eventually giving in to his attractions. But the cost of this intimacy turned rumor has it that Lopez ended her romance with the rapper because she was too startled by the event. That the singer's realization of Combs' actual nature, what she supposedly witnessed with her, was the pivotal moment, although these are only reports. The girl's own eyes caused her to turn away from her sweetheart in disgust. Nevertheless, J.Lo left this romance in the past for all time, and it appears she never looked back on her choice. Gene Deal, P. Diddy's former bodyguard, has disclosed startling information about the music mogul's life that, in his words, Combs not only took part in but even coordinated parties for Hollywood elites that were notorious because they were gay and frequently involved drug usage evolved into exclusive gatherings with restricted access. And P. Diddy was always looking to add new members. Agreement asserts that came from intentionally trying to include powerful people in the process rather than just pursuing personal objectives. His dubious affairs at these events, celebrities gave in to their darkest dreams and were willing to pay any. The Bodyguard explained how P. Diddy would gather young men to his room and demand that no one watch any explicit shows, enter the sauna, and have regular gay orgies there 2 or 3 times a week. But the most intriguing aspect is that, at first, nobody took Gene's claims seriously. Only recently, allegations of lying and attempting to capitalize on P. Diddy's reputation began to flood social media sites. With Combs facing imminent incarceration, have many begun to question the veracity of the Bodyguard's statements. Revealing information on P. Diddy's ongoing infidelity, Combs strayed not just on Jennifer Lopez, but also on the singer. Claims that he not only cheated on his wife but also on J.Lo and occasionally even on Jennifer while she was there. Lost her sanity because of his behavior. Strangely, P. Diddy himself was. The former bodyguard, who is incredibly envious, recalls an instance in which he almost got into a fight with Will Smith over, and the actor and Jennifer had an amicable chat at a party, and she treated him with dignity. But only because of inherited genes and the fact that his life depended on the Bodyguard enforcement, but Deal continued to see everything that happened throughout Combs' life. And now Deal is prepared to validate all the stories about P. Diddy's scandalous parties and fetishes in court and testify against him. Even if the government inquiry supports his claims, he was originally thought to be a lunatic slanderer. The public is starting to reconsider their beliefs. P. Diddy's ex-girlfriend's challenging lives are also emphasized in controversial memoirs, such as the account of Cassandra, his former lead vocalist label, and Sean's lover. Their paths met in 2005, when she was 19 years old, aged, and he was 37 at first. The envious producer had complete control on every move. When the young protege later, he quickly started using narcotics and hooked Cassie on them, forcing her to have sex with other men and prostitutes in order to satisfy his own needs, beating, raping, and humiliating her perverse imaginations. Diddy would indulge in voyeurism and document the orgies on camera. It's incredible that the singer not only had the courage to tell the world the harsh reality about the tyrant, but launched a lawsuit against him in retaliation, claiming that Cassandra's claims were baseless and unreasonable. And even insulting, they stated that for the previous 6 months she had been blackmailing the CEO, demanding money, and threatening to publish a tell-all book about their relationship. By the way, the ex-bodyguard also commented on he claimed that at the time of their connection, Cassie's lawsuit only disclosed half of the terrible reality, which was Diddy's name was used leniently, but it was clear from the text that the truth was far worse. The Bodyguard promised that he was extraordinarily supportive of the girl, Cassandra, even a day after the charges were made public. Withdrawn her complaint in a day, and the media swiftly announced that the parties had come to a settlement, pledging as early as May of this year not to exacerbate the situation anymore on social media or in the press. But Diddy and Cassie made headlines once more after a video of an irate Diddy emerged. At 2016, Combs severely battered his girlfriend at a Los Angeles hotel. The video showed her in shock. Attempts to run, but Sean follows after her, kicking and shoving her to the ground before dragging her against her will into rumors in the elevator at the time state that the music mogul paid $50,000 to guarantee this embarrassing film was never released, but following raids on his homes. The truth was eventually discovered by he seemed to have had a pathological fixation with recording and gathering compromising footage for his personal gathering in the midst of multiple lawsuits filed against the artist, and searches of his estate's court records disclose a terrifying image of what actually occurred at the famous party's witnesses' testimonies provide a picture of a scheme where the producer and his accomplishments forced women to engage in orgies through emotional blackmail and threats. These villains used a variety of strategies, including manipulation. As you would have suspected, he also used narcotics, dosed his patients to increase their compliance, and then he would give them IV drips to aid in their further recovery. Swiftly from the enjoyment, if the ladies declined to join his twisted gatherings, the scoundrel utilized earlier captured footage of them, leaving the hostages with no option but to be physically the inmates of Sean's sophisticated exploitation system or subjected to verbal and emotional torture. Police in Miami and Los Angeles found much more terrible medications, as well as over 1,000 bottles of lubricant and baby oil, were undoubtedly necessary supplies for the recently lubricated ridiculous orgies of coercion. Diddy was taken into custody, and despite efforts to gather $50 million, the rapper is unlikely to post. Even though he was prepared to mortgage only to get out of jail, he added the value of his mother's property for $2 million to his own mansion at $48 million, but it was all in vain. Puffy is currently under strict observation following what appears to be a suicide attempt. Some are even thinking of releasing him. The noose is getting tighter on this seasoned manipulator and sociopath. As they say, everything in life has a price, and occasionally the cost is too great to bear. Diddy has been formally charged with human trafficking with the goal of sexual exploitation by means of coercion, fraud, and force, as well as the rapper's involvement in a plot to carry out extortion and transfer people for prostitution. Allegedly exploited his connections and power to perpetrate crimes like forced labor with his associates. Who among the celebs had been alerting us about Sean for kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice? Years ago, specifically in 2006, sent. He claimed that since Biggie's death was still an unsolved case, the authorities knew who killed him. Put differently, Fifth was outright declaring that the mogul had something to do with Christopher's demise. Course denies that for a long time, 50 Cent claimed that Puff was non-heterosexual and occasionally acted quite flamboyantly without even recognizing it, and he declared in 2023 that a documentary about rappers was being worked on by his production team. Rapists. It's difficult to say whether 50 hinted at the release of this movie following Diddy's house searches, whether the artist was making fun of the entire Combs issue, or whether he truly made such a video with evidence that it would undoubtedly spark a furious commotion. Eminem, who had been criticizing Sean since 1996 and bringing up his part in Tupac's slaying, labels the words like "rest in peace." Biggie and Pac quickly follow this statement about the producer rapist on his most recent album. Kanye West claimed in one of his podcast appearances that both should still be alive. Diddy, a former member of collaborating with the FBI to evade jail time of a group Fluff formed, had been discussing his mistreatment of the females in the band he made them play for 20 years. Signed non-disclosure agreements in order to shield his reputation from being tarnished during the Mogul Mansion Day raids. shared a video of two dancing along with the insightful message, "Not too soon, too late, Lil," a musician and sound producer, according to Lil. Jones Jr. also sued the mogul, claiming that he had sexually assaulted her while she was employed. Diddy made moves toward him, touched his genitalia, and asked that he live in the homes of the people on an album, employ prostitutes for sexual purposes, and in one instance reported in, even attempted to get Jones ready for contact with another guy. The lawsuit in July 2023 during a party at Sean's residence in Los Angeles, where the rapper coerced the producer to consume alcohol combined with medications. Lil passed out, and upon awakening, he discovered himself naked next to a sleeping sex worker. He further stated that every room in Diddy's residence was outfitted with covert cameras that recorded sex tapes, including well-known celebrities worldwide and politicians of days. The public is primarily interested in knowing who attended those well-known rapper groups that, like him, sexually assaulted and corrupted children. I believe that after all this time in the shadows, it's sufficient to glance at his closest circle, where he did hang around. Who did he have a particular affection for the most? Maybe some of these well-known individuals are also mentioned in Epstein's records. And finally, who is now defending this villain or conversely remaining silent? Despite their strong relationship with him, some of them even brought up these gatherings in their own reality shows. For instance, Khloe Kardashian once told Kourtney about her visit to a buddy of Diddy's mansion. When she arrived at the door at 5:30 in the morning, she claimed that the majority of the visitors were fully naked. If Calm begins naming people, or if unexpected new information surfaces, you will comprehend Hollywood as a whole may fall apart. The rapper's former bodyguard said, "I think it's not just about stars. There are politicians, princes, and an unending array of musicians, actors, and other famous personalities." The media states that some celebrities are already formulating a strategy in case they are linked to anything that others are unable to discover. Calm, knowing that their history could soon catch up with them. The most terrifying aspect of this is just the start. They'll now be looking at every crime Diddy has committed over the past 30 years, if not more. Years. Diddy's horrifying victim story is more than just a scandal, a biography of a grace star that serves as a sobering reminder to humanity as to how unbridled power, money, and total impunity can completely corrupt anyone. Even a gifted person transformed into a heartless creature that thrives on other people's agony and has no moral limitations beneath the opulent exterior of wealth and fame is a hideous reality about a sadist and narcissistic psychopath who spent decades abusing, and raping helpless victims that he stepped on, over all moral standards and legal requirements to satiate his twisted cravings and ravenous appetites. A truth about a nefarious network of plots that muffles threats and bribery is intended to conceal these horrible acts, and in spite of the villain's might and influence, a few courageous people have bravery to confront this facade of respectability. Heroes who ventured to openly discuss the atrocities they suffered and are currently battling for justice. Their bravery has encouraged more victims to speak up, refuse to be silenced, and endure abuse and humiliation. It appears that Diddy established a whole network of similarly wicked people. Around him, everyone is prepared to step in for one another. His close friend Jay-Z, whose name has also emerged in relation to claims of human trafficking and sexual offenses, the rapper has stayed in the shadows, has avoided taking on responsibilities. Thus far, perhaps this is due to his enormous riches and connections. Or maybe the victims were just too afraid to oppose someone so strong and vicious. Diddy and Jay-Z's long-standing friendship raises the question, predator. Whatever way is Jay-Z's silent solidarity an indication of culpability in these atrocities? Did he share Sean's disgusting obsessions and nasty secrets while maintaining his integrity in public? Yet regardless of despite the scope of the silent and entertainment industry conspiracy, This tale gives optimism that even the most evil characters may be defeated, will ultimately come into conflict with justice, and systems of authority and subordination based on exploitation and terror collapse, and that the victim's cries would eventually overpower the facilitator's hypocritical silent accomplices. This case serves as a sobering reminder of the villains who continue to prey on defenseless people throughout any professional community, particularly those where there is a cult of celebrity worship and their lifestyles reigns, where individuals receive poisonous training to submit to and obey authority from the beginning of their professional lives. Relationship models facilitate the access of potential victims by rapists and enable them to be abused systematically. For years, it's been crucial to abide by certain guidelines in order to safeguard yourself and your loved ones. First, believe your gut if should someone's behavior make you uncomfortable or disgusted. There's most likely a valid cause for it. Attempt to steer clear of casual contacts with such people, particularly in remote areas. Second, if you encounter abuse or harassment, report it right once to those you have faith in, your friends, family, and coworkers. Don't keep your trauma to yourself because abusers fear being exposed. Third, if at all feasible, record any criminal activity. Acts within the bounds of the law, store texts, emails, and record chats greatly increase your chances of establishing the offender's guilt, but above all, don't remain mute. Accept shame and resist the need to let fear stop you from remembering evil. Only wins when good people do nothing. Your voice, resistance, and resilience is what will ultimately defeat the violent and impunity-based system. Never give up on justice, even when it seems hopeless. And let's naturally help one another. Empathy, kindness, and a readiness to hear and assist are the most effective defenses against rapists and those who fill in for them. So let's not ignore other people's suffering. We can only defeat the covert plots of exploiters collectively and strive for a society in which each individual dozy narrative is more than simply a depressing account of a crazy producer. It serves as a reminder of the everlasting conflict between right and wrong in the human soul. A warning about the disastrous consequences of unbridled power. However, it's also a motivational illustration of the unwavering spirit and the capacity to oppose aggression. We are all members of the same pack, therefore let's not stand by and let the abusers get away with it while helping those in need. One community, and it is up to each of us to choose whether our future is one of terror and hopelessness or justice, compassion, and humanity. The decision is ours. And the example of the courageous people who exposed Diddy and his accomplice demonstrate that Bill's vision for a brighter future is completely all we need to do is speak up. That's all for now. Please be sure to depart. Please share your thoughts on this scenario in the comments. Be careful and keep in mind that everything we take for granted could closer than you may.